Good evening, welcome to TDM Talk Show. Our guest for tonight is no stranger to the local broadcasting industry here in Macau. She's a familiar face for some of you who have been watching TDM English News, as she was one of our former TV presenter. She was born in Macau, lived in China, and moved to Medellin, Colombia. She was part of the Colombian delegation in the recent China International Import Expo. Her personal goal, to be a bridge between China and the Colombian government to deepen economic and financial cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Sinky. Good evening, Sinky.
Thank you, Karen, for inviting me.
Yes, so it's been a pleasure to finally have you here.
It's my honor to be back home.
Yes. So first of all, let's start with your story in Macau. You were born in Macau and then you live in China and England for 3 years. Tell us more about it.
Okay, so I was born and bred in Macau. I finished my high school. At that time, I think that it was not fashionable, but it was like a door opening to have options to study in mainland China and obviously somewhere else. But I chose to go to mainland China. In a city which is called Guangzhou, which is the third largest city in China. At that time, 4 years, and then I finished my undergrad degree. Then I went to England. I did 2 master's degree there. Wow. After that, actually, I met, just to advance a little bit the story, I met my now husband, who is Colombian. But when I told my parents that I had a Colombian boyfriend at that time, they said they would commit suicide.
Oh, wow.
So really because of that, I had to go home. I had to go back home after England. At that time, since my undergrad was journalism and communication, so I tried, And fortunately, I had the opportunity to work in TDM for almost 2 years. During those 2 years, I've learned a lot about the update of what was happening in Macau, because at that time, which was 10 years ago, was very different from what I knew about Macau when I was small, which was in the 80s and 90s, before Macau returned to China. So it's a very interesting period.
Right. So you decided to move to Medellin, Colombia. Because to follow your boyfriend,
I think just to be diplomatically correct, I think on one hand, yes, you fall in love with someone, but actually during those 2 years when I was here in TDM, I went to Colombia once.
Right.
It was almost a month. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. So at that time, it was 2007. Christmas time. So I went there by knowing absolutely nothing, like seriously nothing. I just went there, just want to do my field trip to see if it's really just jungle or chicken on the street, or if they have cars. But surprisingly, it's a normal country, it's a normal city. They have traffic lights. It's just normal scenario of a city that you can see in the world. But I noticed one thing at that time was that you didn't see, even today, you didn't see Asian faces on the street. Even now, I'm still an alien. If I walk alone on the street, people will still look at me as if I'm an alien.
Wow.
So for me, it was very striking because, I've traveled a little bit in the world, that you see Asian people anywhere, and literally anywhere in the world. Even not as tourists, but you see, people would live there. But there in Medellin, zero at that time. So I think, okay, it's interesting. So for some people, they might see, okay, so there's nothing to do for Asian people. But for me, I saw the other side, which for me, it was an opportunity to open up a whole new world, because at that time, I couldn't speak much Spanish. I learned a little bit in England, but I saw that if I could really make that to learn Spanish. Obviously, it's an entrepreneurship because you actually
Yes.
have to start your life all over again. Because in Macau, I had everything,
Yeah.
like literally everything. I had career, family, friends, blah, blah, blah. But to start a new life in Latin America, it wasn't an easy decision. But because, yeah, it's more like an intuition, the gut feeling that, okay, maybe I could do something there. So I quitted my favorite job in TDM. So I
Tough
I
decision.
went there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very, very tough. Yeah, because when you are young and nice, you had everything, and you actually go to somewhere that everyone would say you are crazy.
Yes.
Yeah, because everyone now in the world, they want to go to China. They want to go to Hong Kong, Macau. They want to go to China, but I was the one who decided to leave Macau and to go to Medellin. So at that time, it was tough. And all this period, next year, April, it will be my 10th years.
10th year.
Yeah, in Colombia. So I think it's quite meaningful to be here to share the story. Yeah.
Right. What were the adjustments and how was the transition from 10 years ago?
Like personal adjustment
Yes, personal
in Medellin.
adjustment, yes.
Yeah, as we all know, Macau is a very small place, like physically. So I think to go to a little bit bigger city, Medellin is not very, very big, but 3 million people, but it's still a bigger city. It has metro, it has
Compared to 600,000 of Macau.
It's not easy in terms of not just the size but of the city, but also the language,
Yes.
all the social network you have to build, because I think it's just like anywhere in the world, you need to know
To
people.
establish good rapport with, say,
Exactly.
officials,
Yeah.
businessmen.
Language, social network, like food for Chinese is crucial, fundamental, but that part is harder. I would say the food part is the most difficult part, but the rest, I would say in general, it really has a lot to do there. That's the good point, because Medellin or Colombia, Latin America, this region is a developing country. I mean, developing region. So all these developing places in this part of the world, some people might compare it as like Africa, because developing part of the world. But it's very nice because people there are really, really very nice to you. I know I am an alien there, but they are very nice to you. They know you are from China. For them, China or Asia literally is another planet for them. So most of them, they know nothing about it. They only know Chinese are very hardworking, and they all do meditating, and they all do martial arts. So for me, it's a good perception. Yeah.
Medellin was known as the city of drug cartels, Pablo Escobar, and violence. It was a complete chaos. Policemen were assassinated.
Yes.
Was there a time in your life that you felt that you were in danger?
I think
10 years ago. I know it's a complete different scenario now, but at the time.
Yeah, I think at the time when I decided to go there, I think it's already another story. You can still perceive a developing city or developing country. You perceive that very easily. But security-wise, I would say it's been very secure, or at least I think if you don't look stupid on the street, and if you are not lucky, if you are not unlucky, you are fine. It's like anywhere in the world, in New York, in Hong Kong.
Tel Aviv.
Exactly. You will still have the chance to be robbed, or I think it really depends on if you want to show everything you have to the street, and if you are unlucky, you really can decide that. But all these 10 years, I've been feeling very safe. And it's always my invitation for people from Macau, for people from China or in another part of the world to go visit Medellin, to go visit Colombia, because it is really an amazing place. It's not just because it's different or it's diversity, but the climate there is perfect.
Mild, just
Yeah.
mild climate.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's mild climate, and yeah, I guess you can escape from air pollution as well. So yeah.
6 years after you moved to Medellin, it was hailed as the most innovative city in 2013 by the Urban Land Institute. The government has improved the public transportation, which I guess for some people, based on a lot of research, that was the turning point when the government did change the public transportation. It opened to a lot of possibilities to locals, to the informal settlers, even that. And they created, they built a cable car. Tell us more about it.
Okay, so because of the, let's say these two factors, security, violence, or the uncertain economic crisis, because of the security situations more than 10 years ago or 15 years ago, Medellin government is a very interesting case actually to study for urban transformation case study.
Yeah.
So Medellin, what they did and what they are doing, what they have been doing is that more than 10 years ago, the municipality of Medellin, so not the mayor, but the municipality of Medellin has approved a public policy for science, technology, and innovation for the city. So what does that mean? Because if you Google Medellin, you see the pictures of Medellin is in a valley.
Yes.
So it's surrounded by mountains, and infrastructurally speaking, Latin America in general is not the best.
Right.
Especially when you have all these mountains around. So transport, or if you want to export, or it is international trade, or it's not the easiest one. In order to be able to have a more sustainable economy, the city itself decided to adopt or to have this public policy in science, technology, and innovation to transform the local economy to be a knowledge-based economy. And that's why at that time, the city has established an entity which is called Ruta N. Ruta N is a center of business and innovation in Medellin. And thanks to this, and obviously all the integration and collaboration between all the public-private sectors, they call it public-private allies. So it's universities, enterprises, and government entities. So they all work together to make sure that it's not just because this mayor was there, so things work, and another mayor came, things change. No, it's because of this. Actually, it's a public policy for 10 years. So it's approved for 10 years. So it's not just for these 2 years or these 4 years. Yeah. So it provides a certain level of political stability for this transformation process to happen. So that's one thing. On the other hand, you have mentioned, Karen, that the public transport, actually Medellin is the only city in Colombia that they have metro.
Yeah, above ground metro.
Yeah, and trams, and this integrated system, trams and metro, and it's very nice. In comparison, obviously, to other Latin American countries. And actually, it's very, very clean. Yeah. Because if you go to a metro in Europe, you see the difference, basically. It's very nice that all this transformation is not just about technology or science, because Medellin is not planning to be the next Silicon Valley, because it is not, and it will not be, because of the context is very different. Right. But it wants to use science, technology, innovation as means to improve people's quality of life. So plus that, the public transportation is a key in terms of the social transformation. That's why Medellin, all of these elements together, that's why Medellin has won this Innovative City of the Year that you have mentioned. It also has won
The Wall Street Journal has published it.
Yeah.
And a lot of international organizations, and I'm going to quote them,
Yeah.
it's a great physical place to live now.
Yes.
There is a great
I won't
quality of
live-
life.
Yeah, I won't live
and a
anywhere
low
else in
cost
the
of
world.
living and
Yeah.
a great sense of inclusion.
Yeah.
Because as you said earlier, you're Asian and
Yeah.
you felt like you're an alien, but there's this sense of inclusion also from you'd get that warm feeling from the locals. There's this sense of acceptance, even if you're an alien, and there's this place that you actually belong. And being a Chinese and now living in Medellin, it's really, how can I say this? Like, it's bizarre.
Yeah, okay. I just give
Fascinating.
you a simple example. I am a Macau-born Chinese, but I'm working for the local government. I'm a public servant
Right.
in Medellin, in this Ruta and Center of Business and Innovation, helping local enterprises to go global. So you see, if the city is not inclusive enough,
Right.
I wouldn't dream to be able to work in a government body, yeah, in a way. So I think that's a very good example. And the fact that, it is opening up
Right.
slowly, but it is opening up. So there are a lot of options, choices for foreigners. Yeah, I think, obviously to be able to speak the Spanish from Medellin is very important. It's not just Spanish from Spain.
Yes.
Yeah, they are opening up, they are opening this integration process. So it's very beautiful, and I think I'm very lucky as well to be, not only to be the witness, but also to be part of it.
This leads me to the next question. You were part of the delegation in the recent expo participated by a lot of countries, more than 100, probably 187 countries from around the world. How was the experience?
So imagine the expo in Shanghai 2 weeks ago.
It's the first ever.
Yeah, it's the first ever because China is not just saying, they're doing it, they're offering platform, mechanism for foreign products to enter Chinese market. So it's very different from what is doing in the mainstream in the North America. Nowadays nationalism and protectionism is quite strong. So in a way, it's very interesting because they actually offer a place. Actually, that next year they are going to do the same. Okay, in Shanghai as well. So it's an expo for international products to expose there or to sell, obviously, for the country, for the product, to showcase. Yeah. So it is an evidence for China to open up and to further deepen, let's say, the 40-year reform and opening up program, because it's not just about stimulating the internal consumption, but they're actually really, if you go to China and if you live in China, actually in the last month I was in China, seriously now my mouth stays open.
Completely changed.
Completely changed from the time I was there 15, 18 years ago. No cash.
Cashless transactions now.
But it's so cool because I was with Colombian delegation, Colombian entrepreneurs or government entities. So when we enter a restaurant, like the first few days, they didn't have cash and they only have this Visa or whatever credit card they have. Interestingly, these cards usually don't work, or some work. Let's say some work, some don't work.
Right.
But they don't have cash, and you just use your phone. You don't even have to count the money. The transaction takes 1 second.
Yeah.
So it's also a form of efficiency, and it also provides security for citizens.
Yes. So China has invited Latin American and Caribbean countries to join the One Belt, One Road initiative early this year as part of an agreement to deepen economic and political cooperation. You also made mention that as part of the delegation, you visited 3 Chinese cities here. And what did you do? Did you see a lot of potential opportunities between the two cities, like between China and Medellin?
Okay, yes, and actually Latin American, I think 3-4 countries have already signed this One Belt, One Road initiative with the Chinese government,
Yep.
which for me, they are very smart, yeah? And Colombia, let's say, we still have a long way to go to be able to reach that part, but I think that's why I'm happy to be there to make that happen. In terms of opportunities, it's tremendous because every time I come back to China, I would say to myself the same question: why am I working for someone else? It's like, why am I not being an entrepreneur or selling things to China, for example? Because Colombia or Latin America, they have a lot of cool, very nice natural products, that could be, that are interesting for China. Okay, but going back to the Colombian delegation, opportunities between Medellin / Colombia and China is enormous. What we have to do, is we need to have more understanding, interaction, exchanges. Right. Because in Shenzhen, in Zhuhai and Shanghai, we have met entities like invest in Shenzhen, invest in Shanghai, or invest in Nanjing. That all these entities that they promote trade in both ways, like export, inbound and outbound, right? That we could establish cooperation or agreement, or simply send a delegation from China that with Chinese entrepreneurs that are interested in invest in Colombia or Latin America, and the other way around. Right. So that's the bridge that I'm trying to do, because if you ask a Colombian just to go to China like that, knocking the door, there's like no way. You have to know someone. The same way, you cannot just go to Colombia because you know Sinki. There's like, no, you have to make it, you have to do the protocol, you have to make things, work on that level. Right. But once you build up the relationship
and trust,
which is the most important thing in international business, like nothing else matter. I don't care about MOU, I don't care about agreement. If you have cool products and obviously the permission things, regulations allow, just do it.
For Medellin, what does Medellin has to offer to China?
I would say Medellin and the region, because in terms of investment, Medellin is right in the middle of America. If you check out the map, it's right in the middle. It's not in Chile, in the very south, or it's right in the middle. So it's very convenient to travel, on both sides. Right. And it's also, nowadays, it's also a very trendy thing to do, is that to be a hub for outsourcing. Right. Yeah, for technology, BPO, all these from Medellin.
Startups.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the best place, apparently.
Yeah, from Medellin to America. Yeah. So, and China, on the other hand, is also opening up this part of the market, which for most of the companies in China or entrepreneurs is a virgin continent. So it's very nice if we could build that bridge, that, you know what, come and see. Because we are not only selling the Medellin market because it's too small. I mean, come on, you can't compare. But if you use Medellin as a platform, as a strategic platform to enter the USA, Mexico, and the South, all these 27 Latin American countries, which would be very interesting. Yeah, and in Ruta N, where we work, in the Center of Business and Innovation, we have a landing program, soft landing program, which we help companies. For example, we have Huawei, settling down in our center. And we also, this year, just before I came back to Macau for visiting, we have BYD, which is, which they provide electric cars and buses. Yeah, because Medellin, in terms of the transport, we also want to, keep improving, let's say. So we have this BYD company, which both companies, they are from Shenzhen. Shenzhen is the innovative city in China. So for me, it's very meaningful as well to be in the Colombian delegation, to visit Shenzhen and to talk to not only government level, but also all these enterprises that are interested in Colombia.
How do you see this partnership in, say, 10 years? Do you think it's going to boom into like a very successful one? And also for tourism?
Yeah. Yes, I think in 10 years is, for China is a short time. But I think what China is doing is very interesting because in terms of investment, last year China has invested 4.4 billion in new foreign direct investment projects in Latin America.
Right.
Compared to 2016, it was 2.7 billion. So it's not almost, but it's almost double of the investment that they did, and it has been growing. And for example, in Colombia, there's this harbor, there's a public bid project that was won for the first time by a Chinese government, by a Chinese company.
Wow.
So it's quite historical for Colombia and for me. It's something, it's very cool. And in Colombia, for example, nowadays there are 70 Chinese companies.
Oh, okay.
And in Latin America, on the other hand, there are these free trade zones. In Latin America, there are 600 of them. But guess how many Chinese companies are there? Guess?
I have no clue, really.
A number.
A number, how many Chinese companies? I'd say less than 20? No.
Yeah, you're right. There are 3.
Oh, wow.
In the free trade zones area in Latin America. So actually, it doesn't mean that they are not doing well or we're not doing well, but it only means, I always see opportunities. It only means that there are a lot to do in terms of understanding and knowing that actually, you know what, if you set up your company there in Colombia, I don't know, in all this free trade zone, you don't have to pay tax.
Right.
Well, imagine that, or pay very low or relatively low tax. So you have a better margin, you have, all these things, they exist. China, not as a factory, but market. We also have to tell Colombian people, I always have to tell them. Yeah, because all the goods that go manufactured in China that go to Colombia, at least, usually are cheap products. So that's why Colombians have this perception or stereotype that made in China, no good. Yeah. Obviously, talent is a different topic, but so that's the perception, but that's the job I assume myself that I have to do, is to bridge these like misunderstanding and understanding, because if you have all these mechanisms and free trade zones and landing program in Ruta and whatever, we have to tell them, we have to tell the other side of the world. And the same way that we have to tell China, the Chinese entrepreneurs, that, you know what, Latin America, Colombia, Medellin is ready to receive you with open arms.
Right. But what
we will
about
facilitate the business.
Right. For the last question, what do you see a potential innovative partnership with the Macau government?
Actually, I do see a whole lot, because Macau has this language, let's say language advantage. Although when I was in the China, Latin America, and the Caribbean Business Summit in Zhuhai this year, and in the expo in Shanghai, when I saw Macau, the promotion trade entity, they always position itself as bridge between Portuguese-speaking countries, which is fine, which I think is fine, and yeah, it's perfectly good. Yeah, positioning. But Latin America is 27 countries.
Right.
Yeah, we have Brazil there,
right,
which they speak Portuguese, but the rest they all speak Spanish. Yeah, almost all they speak Spanish. So I think it's a matter of playing.
Yeah.
That you can position Macau as a Portuguese-speaking platform to enter China, but why not as well? Because Spanish and Portuguese, they are really, really similar.
Right.
Yeah, anyone speaks Spanish when they arrive to Macau, they won't get lost.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's a matter of marketing.
Right.
Marketing, how we could market Macau, not just Portuguese-speaking countries, but also Spanish-speaking countries. And the good thing about, for example, One Belt One Road and the Greater Bay Area Initiative is that China is positioning or trying to integrate this area, Hong Kong, Macau, and Zhuhai, / China, through this initiative, not just through the bridge physically, but to develop each city's what they're already strong at. So they all create a complementary and collaboration, actually all the time. But now it's more official that China is putting in, a lot of investment. For example, in Zhuhai, they have established a China Latin America Industrial Park.
Right.
Just to facilitate the business between China and Latin America.
Yeah.
And why it's in Zhuhai? It's not just anywhere else because it's next to Macau.
Yes.
Which is a Portuguese-speaking region as well.
We have to wait.
Yeah.
We have to wait what happens next.
Yeah, well, obviously, the initiative is there, and there are difficulties like the different languages, legal systems, and cultures. But the important thing is the Greater Bay Area Initiative is well designed and is learning a lot from other benchmark like San Francisco, New York, or Tokyo.
Right.
So, and actually, this Greater Bay Area. It's the economy itself is bigger than the G20 economies like Australia,
Germany.
Mexico. Yeah. So it's a very interesting initiative, which I think Macau could really take advantage of. Yeah, being Portuguese colony before, it's cool, and now, it's China better. But how could we position Macau as not just Portuguese but also Spanish-speaking? Platform to enter China.
For now, we just have to wait. Again, thank you so much, Sinky, and we are always, always proud of you.
Thank you so much, Karen, and it's always an honor to be back home.
Thank you. And that's a wrap for tonight. Join us again for another episode of TDM Talk Show. Good night, I'm Karen Keith.